When exhaustion looked like laziness, I used to blame myself for everything. I'd wake up late on a Saturday, and the first thing that came to mind was, "You're lazy." I'd look at the sink full of dirty dishes and think, "You're so disorganized." I'd sit down to work but just stare at the screen for minutes, sometimes hours, and the thought was always the same. "You're sabotaging yourself." I repeated those phrases to myself like twisted mantras, like absolute truths. It was as if the only explanation for my constant exhaustion, for my difficulty starting, staying focused, moving at all, was a character flaw, laziness, lack of will, weakness. And the cruelest part was that no one said otherwise. The world doesn't like people who stop, who breathe, who slow down. Our culture teaches us that being tired is a lack of effort, that productivity is a moral virtue, that rest is for those who've already made it, and me. I hadn't made anything. I just wanted to sleep 10 more minutes. I just wanted to not feel that absurd weight on my chest first thing in the morning. I just wanted to exist without the constant feeling that I was disappointing someone, including myself. Little by little, the exhaustion stopped being physical. It became existential. I could no longer recognize myself in the things that used to excite me. A message on my phone felt like an impossible task to answer. An email turned into a mountain. Getting out of bed required an effort I had no idea where to find. And yet, my internal speech was always the same. "You're lazy." The same sentence, the same punishment. Even the people around me, without meaning to, reinforced that. "You have so much potential. You just need to get organized. You're putting things off again, aren't you?" And I just lowered my head and agreed, because I believed it too. The truth is, the body sends signals. But when you've learned that productivity is the same as worth, you ignore them. When getting out of bed already takes all your strength, but you still beat yourself up for not going to the gym, something is wrong. When every task becomes a burden, but you still force yourself to smile and pretend everything is fine, something inside you is screaming and you're not listening. I wasn't listening. I was silencing it. I kept telling myself, "It's just a bad day. Next week will be better. When I get everything in order, this will pass." And so, days became weeks. Weeks became months. And I slowly disappeared. I started comparing myself to everyone around me, to coworkers who seemed to handle everything, who did 1,000 things and still had time to clean the house, go out with friends, read books. I looked at them and felt like a mistake, a failure, and silently, I demanded even more of myself. Even moments of rest became a field of guilt. If I allowed myself to relax, right after came the mental punishment. "While you rest, other people are producing," and I believed that. As if my existence needed to be justified with visible results. As if I had no right to stop. And maybe this is the deepest point of all. I didn't think I was sick. I thought I was wrong, that I was the problem, that I needed to fix myself. It never crossed my mind that something bigger was going on, something structural, something that wasn't about laziness at all, but about overload. It wasn't a lack of effort. It was too much pressure, but I didn't see it. No one did. Until one day, I noticed something. I couldn't remember the last time I felt okay. Not just happy, but at peace, with inner quiet, with real rest. Everything inside me was noise, pressure, weight, emptiness. And in that emptiness, a question appeared, subtle as a whisper. What if you're not lazy? What if this is something else? But I still wasn't ready to hear the answer, because admitting it wasn't laziness meant admitting that I needed help. And for someone who has always pretended to handle everything, that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. The self-criticism that hurt more than the exhaustion. There is nothing more cruel than the judgment we turn against ourselves when we are exhausted and don't know it. And believe me, I was relentless with me. I looked in the mirror like I was facing an enemy. Every dark circle, every tired expression, every slow movement, everything became a reason for self-attack. It wasn't just tiredness. It was moral failure. It was as if my body weren't just tired, it was embarrassing me. And the only response my mind could find was aggression. "You're being weak. Get up already. Everyone's tired. You're not special." I said these things to myself with the same coldness as someone grabbing another person by the collar and forcing them to keep walking. But deep down, all I wanted was to lie down and not have to get up for a while. Not because I was lazy, but because I didn't know how to keep pretending anymore. Only stopping was unthinkable. Stopping meant admitting something was wrong, and admitting that was dangerous. Because if I wasn't strong, Who was I? If I wasn't efficient, where was my value? If I wasn't producing, what was I doing here? That kind of thought is a prison, one built with the bricks of perfectionism, comparison, and false meritocracy. I scrolled through social media and saw people waking up at 5 a.m., doing yoga, reading success books, posting motivational quotes. And me? I just wanted to manage to wash my hair without feeling like it would drain the rest of my energy for the day. But still, I compared myself. I shrank. I blamed myself. Then came the cycle. I felt tired. I couldn't do what I needed to. I felt useless. I judged myself more. I tried to force productivity. I failed again. The guilt grew and the cycle started over. It was an invisible spiral, pulling me deeper in. And all of this, in silence. Because talking about it, in my mind, would mean admitting defeat. It's frightening how well we learn to hide pain. To smile on video calls even when we feel broken. To answer I'm fine when nothing is fine. To joke about our own exhaustion, as if laughing were better than imploding. And that's exactly what I started doing. Turning my suffering into routine, a habit. Something so constant that I stopped noticing how it was slowly hollowing me out. There was one week when everything finally collapsed. I had 3 important deadlines, personal commitments, and still felt pressured to look okay online. On Monday, I tried to start my tasks and simply couldn't. The computer screen turned into a blur. The words, a shapeless mass. Time passed, and I just stayed there, frozen. It wasn't laziness, it was paralysis. And even then, I insulted myself in my head every minute, as if abusing myself would make me function again. Self-criticism became my only language. I kept telling myself I was disappointing everyone, that no one would believe in me anymore, that I was a fraud. And the more I tried to react, the more I sank. My body started showing signs of collapse, back pain, anxiety attacks, severe insomnia. And yet, my mind insisted, you're just being dramatic. That's how destructive self-criticism is. It makes you doubt your own pain. It convinces you that you're exaggerating, that you're making things up, that you are the problem, not the environment, not the workload, not the absurd pressure. But something deep inside me started whispering more loudly. A small voice, fragile but persistent. It said, maybe this isn't your fault. And that possibility, so simple, so subversive, was the first crack in the wall of guilt I'd built around myself. I started to notice details, like the fact that other people around me were exhausted too. They also talked about lack of focus. They also felt lazy. And I asked myself, why does everyone feel this way? And nobody talks about it? That's when I realized, maybe the mistake wasn't in me. Maybe the mistake was believing that the problem was individual, when it was collective, structural, invisible. But that awareness was still fragile. Because when you've spent so long attacking yourself, learning to treat yourself with kindness feels strange. It feels wrong. And I still needed to learn that rest is not a reward, that dignity is not measured in productivity, that being human is more important than being efficient. I still didn't have the answers. I still blamed myself. I still felt not enough. But for the first time, I started to doubt the voice that called me lazy. And that, in that moment, was all I needed. The moment time stopped, everything looked like a normal day, a routine day, nothing special. I woke up with the same tiredness that had already become part of me, a constant presence like a tight piece of clothing you never take off. I took a shower, put on the same neutral expression as always, and sat in front of the computer. It was another work morning, another to-do list I no longer knew how to handle. Physically, I was there, but it was as if my mind had stayed somewhere else. The first task of the day was simple: reply to an email. Just one email, something I'd done hundreds of times. I opened the message and read it once, twice, 3 times. The words were there, but they didn't make sense. I blinked, scrolled back to the top, tried to reason it out. Nothing. My brain felt unplugged. My hand trembled over the keyboard. The cursor blinked, mocking my inability. 5 minutes passed, 10, 20, and I was still sitting there, frozen. My breathing got shallow. My heart started racing. Sweat gathered on my palms. It was like my entire body went into panic mode without any clear reason. No danger, no visible threat, just an email, a simple email. And even so, I couldn't do it. I stood up slowly, walked to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. Same face as always, but empty. My eyes were dull, like someone had turned the lights off inside. I gripped the edge of the sink so I wouldn't fall. The tears came without warning. No sobs, no drama, just silent, heavy tears, my body's way of letting go. And while I cried, something inside me whispered, "It's here." That was it. The moment I'd been postponing, the collapse. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't fainting. It wasn't a dramatic public panic attack. It was the opposite. Absolute silence. A clean cut between before and after. A freeze. An absence of everything. Of energy. Of direction. Of voice. Time stopped, and inside that pause, I saw myself for the first time in a long time. Not as the efficient professional. Not as the multitasker. Not as the one who handles it all. But as someone completely worn out. I went back to the table and shut my computer down. No messages, no explanation. I just turned it off. Then I sat on the living room floor. I stayed there for hours doing nothing, thinking about nothing, as if the world had taken off a weight I'd carried for years, and now that my body was finally free, I had no idea what to do with it. And the scariest part, I didn't feel relief. I felt guilt. Guilt for not working. Guilt for not producing. Guilt for failing. It was as if even my collapse had to be efficient. As if I needed to pull myself together quickly to get back to autopilot. But something inside me knew there was no going back. Not to the way things were. In the days that followed, my body felt like a battlefield. I hurt in places I didn't even know could hurt. My head throbbed. My stomach churned. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Tried to eat and felt sick. The exhaustion was now physical, total, undeniable. And still, my mind tried to downplay it. You just need a weekend. Monday everything will be better. But Monday came, and I couldn't get out of bed. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't laziness. This was something else. I asked for help. For the first time, I made an appointment with a doctor. I described my symptoms, still trying to sound rational. He listened carefully, and then, with the calm of someone who's seen this many times before, he said, "You are in deep exhaustion. What you're going through has a name. This is burnout." The word fell like a rock. Burnout. I knew it. I'd read about it, heard about it in videos, podcasts, but I never imagined it could happen to me. I thought it was something far away. Something that happened to people who collapsed dramatically. I still saw myself as functional, even sitting still, even crying in the bathroom. And there in that office, I understood. I wasn't weak. I was sick. I went home with the diagnosis in my hands. And with it, a new narrative started forming inside me. It wasn't about failure anymore. It was about overload. It wasn't about laziness. It was about depletion. It wasn't just about me. It was about an entire system that pushes us to this point and then leaves us alone to gather the pieces. Time had finally stopped, but now, maybe it was time to start again. The painful discovery. It wasn't laziness. It was pain. Coming home from that appointment with a diagnosis in my hands felt like carrying a truth that both set me free and crushed me. Burnout, exhaustion disorder, collapse from chronic overload. The words echoed in my head like both relief and sentence. Relief, because now I knew it wasn't laziness. Sentence, because accepting it as real meant accepting that something inside me had broken. I sat on my bed with the report still in my hands. Outside, the world kept spinning as if nothing had happened. Inside me, everything felt upside down. I reread the list of symptoms and saw myself in every line. Extreme fatigue, insomnia, irritability, difficulty concentrating, feeling ineffective, emotional distancing from work. I wasn't an exception. I was the clinical picture of burnout. But knowing the name didn't erase the pain. If anything, it added new layers. The pain wasn't just physical, it was emotional, existential. The pain of having reached this point without noticing, of having ignored so many signs, of having believed for so long that it was all my fault. The pain of realizing I'd lived months, maybe years in survival mode without knowing. The pain of having accused myself of laziness, insufficiency, failure when, in reality, what I needed was care. The emotional avalanche was immediate. Anger, sadness, fear. I cried and couldn't stop. Not because I was sick, but because of everything I had endured in silence until my body finally said enough. Every memory of forcing myself to work while unwell, to smile during meetings while my chest screamed, to give more than I had, returned like a punch to the stomach. I wanted to go back in time. I wanted to hug the version of me who thought resting was weakness. I wanted to tell her, You didn't have to endure that much, but it was too late to go back, and too early to move on. In the following days, I went into a kind of silent mourning. Mourning for myself, for the person I was before the collapse, for the image of strength I held onto until the end, for the life I built around productivity, approval, and exhaustion. And in that mourning, I began to understand something deeper. It wasn't just burnout that hurt. It was everything burnout exposed. Because burnout doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's the buildup of years of saying yes when you want to say no, of unreachable goals, of sleepless nights, of praise that only comes when you erase yourself, of a culture that worships exhaustion like a trophy. And without realizing it, I'd become devoted to that culture. The diagnosis also came with a prescription. Pause. A month off. 30 days away from work. 30 days to rest. Take care of myself. Listen to myself. 30 days that, in theory, sounded like a solution but in practice, felt like a threat. Because I no longer knew how to rest. I no longer knew how to exist without doing, without delivering, without proving my worth. On the first day off, I woke up early out of habit, sat down at the table with my laptop, like always, and then remembered I didn't have to work. I stayed there, not knowing what to do. The silence swallowed me, and with it came guilt. You're at home while everyone else is working. You're failing. You're falling behind. It was the voice of toxic productivity, still alive inside me, still trying to convince me that stopping was losing. But something in me was starting to resist. I slowly allowed myself small pauses, breathing calmly, eating slowly, reading one chapter without thinking about tasks. And little by little, I began to feel how exhausted my body truly was. It was as if once I stopped, all the pain I'd suppressed came rushing up. Everything hurt. My head, my back, my stomach. But the worst pain was inside, the pain of realizing I hadn't listened to myself for so long. I wasn't lazy. I never had been. I was wounded, overloaded, shattered. And that changes everything. Because once we understand that our pain has a cause and that the cause is not our weakness, the guilt begins to loosen its grip. And in its place comes compassion. For the first time, I started looking at myself with tenderness, treating myself like someone in recovery, someone who spent too long trying to prove their worth and forgot they were already worthy just by existing. It was painful to accept that, but necessary, because it's only when we call pain by its name that healing becomes possible. The shame of resting and the fear of stopping rest should be a right, something natural, necessary. But for me, it felt almost like a crime. In the first days after being signed off, I couldn't relax. My body was at home, but my mind still lived at the office. Every notification I ignored created a physical discomfort. Every hour without producing something brought a sense of debt. It was as if, just by being away from the keyboard, I was betraying someone, the team, my manager, the system, or maybe myself. The shame was quiet but constant. I felt ashamed of sleeping during the day, of watching a movie while the world outside kept moving, of not being in motion, of simply existing without justifying my presence with a result. I looked in the mirror and still searched for signs of productivity. I still asked myself, what did you do today that was worth it? And if the answer was nothing, the judgment came sharp and immediate. You're wasting time. That's when I realized I'd been conditioned to believe that rest is a privilege, not a necessity. That pausing is laziness. That self-care is a luxury. That a person's worth lies in how much they can endure. And when I stopped, I discovered the size of that lie. But my body slowly began to speak differently. Now that it was no longer forced to function under constant pressure, it asked for what I had denied it for so long: silence. Slow, deep, restorative. At first, I fought it. I tried to fill the time, make lists, organize things, produce something, anything. It was a desperate attempt to keep the old cycle alive, as if I stopped completely, I'd disappear. And maybe that was the biggest fear, disappearing, losing my identity. After all, who was I without goals, without outputs, without external recognition? In that emptiness, I realized something profound. I hadn't just lost energy. I had lost my sense of who I was outside of work. I defined myself by my achievements, by deadlines met, by sleepless nights. And now, without that, I was just me. And that hurt, because I didn't know how to deal with this me. I didn't know how to listen to her. I didn't know how to respect her. The shame of resting came from a lifetime of hearing that success demands sacrifice, that pain is necessary, that those who stop lose. And it took courage to face that programming, to question it, to look it straight in the eye and ask, but at what cost? The cost was already there, written all over my body, my sleep, my health. The cost was too high to ignore, and I knew that if I didn't turn this pause into a real new beginning, I'd go back to the same cycle. And next time, I might not come back whole. So I started watching my thoughts, writing down every time guilt appeared, talking about it in therapy, questioning where each internal demand came from. It was a process, slow, painful, transformative. I began to understand that the shame I carried wasn't truly mine, it was learned. And the fear of stopping, it was a reflection of a society that measures everything in performance, achievements, deliverables. I had to learn slowly that the value of my existence does not depend on what I produce, that I am worthy of rest, of care, of time, that stopping is not failing, it's surviving, it's healing, it's reconnecting with what matters. Along the way, I met others going through the same thing, bright, sensitive, creative people, all victims of the same system. And I realized my story wasn't rare, it was common. And precisely because of that, it needed to be told. I started turning shame into speech, fear into writing, silence into sharing. And the more I spoke, the more I realized how many of us carry the same invisible weight, the same fear of disappointing, the same struggle to stop. But now, I was learning to sleep without guilt, to wake up without panic, to do nothing and still feel whole. And that is a miracle for someone who spent a lifetime measuring themselves by their usefulness. Today, I understand that resting is not stopping. It's preparing, it's rebuilding, it's returning to yourself. And finally, I was finding my way back to me. A new way to exist, with gentleness and truth. The rebuilding didn't begin with some grand gesture. It wasn't a magical, enlightened day or a miraculous switch flipping in my mind. It was the accumulation of small choices, tiny gestures, respected silences. The first time I said no without apologizing. The first email I didn't answer right away. The first afternoon I spent staring at the ceiling without feeling guilty. They seemed small, but they were enormous for someone who'd spent years at war with herself. Learning to exist after burnout is like learning a new language. The sounds are familiar, but the structure changes everything. Before, my language was urgency. Now, I was trying to speak in kindness. Before, every internal sentence started with "you have to." Now, I tried to start with "you can." Before, I measured myself by how many tasks I completed. Now, I was trying to measure myself by presence, by how much I was truly with myself. At first, it's confusing, like living between two worlds, the outside world, which still demands speed, efficiency, performance, and the inner world, which finally learned to breathe. It felt like walking with one foot in each reality. In one, the clock; in the other, the body; in one, expectation; in the other, desire. Going back to work, or rather, redefining what work meant, was a delicate step. I knew I couldn't accept the old rules anymore. I couldn't keep normalizing endless meetings, emails at all hours, sleepless nights, and most of all, I couldn't betray myself again. So I started doing things differently, negotiating deadlines, being honest about my capacity, prioritizing breaks, relearning how to work without erasing myself. It wasn't easy. The world doesn't transform just because we do. It keeps demanding. But when we change on the inside, the world starts to lose its hold over our identity. I still felt pressure, of course, but now I recognized it. I could name it. I knew how to protect my space. More importantly, I learned to celebrate the small wins, ending a day with a peaceful mind, taking a break without guilt, asking for help without shame, and above all, realizing that my productivity doesn't define my worth. This shift showed up in everything. In my relationships, which became more honest. In my body, which slowly began to heal. In my sleep, which became a refuge again. And especially in how I looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, I saw someone real, whole, alive. But not everything was easy. There were still setbacks. Days when the old guilt knocked on the door. Days when I pushed myself too hard again. But now, I could recognize those moments. I could pause, breathe, return to myself, and if needed, start over. Because self-care isn't linear. It's made of loops, adjustments, daily forgiveness. I began sharing my story with friends, coworkers, people who also needed to hear, you're not alone. I realized there are so many people living on the edge, smiling while they break inside, and that telling my story could make room for others to recognize themselves in it too. And that's when everything changed. Turning my pain into words became a purpose. What used to be shame became a bridge. What was once silence became voice. What looked like weakness became strength. A new kind of strength. The strength to be honest. To say I can't. To say I need to stop. To say it's not laziness. It's pain. And it's real. Today, I still get tired. I still make mistakes. I still judge myself sometimes. But now, I know how to come back. I know how to listen to my body. I know how to listen to my mind. I know how to cradle my own soul. And above all, I know I'm no longer alone inside myself. This new way of existing isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about being faithful to my truth, about refusing to hurt myself just to fit into standards that don't serve me anymore. It's about walking toward a lighter life, even if the world keeps trying to push me into the abyss of hurry. And if there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that no goal is worth my peace. No compliment justifies my exhaustion. No delivery compensates for losing myself. Because now I know, I was never lazy. I was collapsing, and I had the courage to listen. What I thought was laziness was survival for so long. I carried a cruel narrative about myself. With every tired sigh, every postponed task, every morning when my body refused to get up, I repeated the same phrase in silence, you're lazy. And that phrase hurt me more than any external demand. It cut me off from myself. It kept me from understanding what was really happening. Today, looking back, I see everything clearly. What I called laziness was the smothered scream of an exhausted body. It was a mind begging for help, pleading for pauses, for air, for care. It was a soul trying to survive in a system that demands so much and offers so little space for truth. This story is just one among thousands. A story that echoes in quiet meeting rooms, in dark apartments, in forced smiles in front of webcams. A story of people trained to endure, to hide, to keep going even when everything inside them is begging to stop. If you see yourself in this, don't blame yourself. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not failing. You are overwhelmed. And maybe you need permission not from the world, but from yourself to stop, to breathe, to listen to what you feel. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is slow down, is say no, is put your own well-being above approval, is choose yourself before everything collapses. If this story touched you, share it. Not for algorithms, but because someone around you might be living through the same thing, and they might need to hear. I also thought it was laziness, but it was pain. If your job is killing you, maybe it's time to save yourself.